Well, I'm Joe Washam, and I want to thank everyone for coming to this little Zoom webinar we're having. This is registering to vote 101 for Northwest ISD needs. I'm Joe Washam, Advocacy Chair for Northwest Council of PTAs. I'm also Advocacy Chair for both Gene Pike Middle School PTA and Justin Elementary PTA for the upcoming 2021 school year for Northwest ISD. I am joined by my Northwest Council PTA President, Phyllis Grissom.
Yeah, I'm Phyllis Grissom. I've got kids at Byron Nelson High School. I'm also the parliamentarian at Byron Nelson. And as Joe mentioned, I'm the president of the Council of PTAs, and we're kind of the district level PTAs. We help support all the PTAs in our district to be successful and advocate for every child across our district.
Which is 29 PTAs?
Yes.
With over 25,000 students in our school district. And
yeah,
we're joined by
all of our schools are PTA schools. They have PTAs, active, healthy PTAs, which makes such a difference in the lives of our children, and of course the great experience they can have in our district or our communities.
That's right. And we're joined by the wonderful Mrs. Bonnie Moore, who was once in my position a couple years ago.
Hi there, I'm Bonnie Moore, and I had a student that graduated, my son graduated from Byron Nelson in 2019, and I was the advocacy chair for Byron Nelson as well as the council of PTAs, and really enjoyed it and enjoyed getting to meet all the different PTAs and parents and principals and staff. So I'm happy to be here, and it's what we're going to be talking about today is a particular passion of mine, and it's registering to vote and actually going and voting.
That's right. The topics we're going to go over today are registering to vote, how to do it online, and also print it off, but just the basics of showing how to do it online. Talk about some of the light discussion on the active voting, voting IDs allowed, and then the difference between early voting, election day. And then we're also going to show each of our county election websites too, because Northwest is so huge. We're in 3 different counties: Wise County, Tarrant County, and Denton County. Now, for me as advocacy, my role is to bring awareness to child-related issues, informing all of our PTA members about accurate and relevant information. That's the most important thing for my position, and I'm fortunate to be at the council and try to provide guidance to each of our PTAs for all of our 25,000 students. My goal right now, my immediate goal of, again, this, even though we went over topics, but of this Zoom meeting, is to encourage voting. That's, at the end of the day, we want to encourage voting. We, as a school district, we were going to have a school bond this past May, but because of the COVID-related health issues, it's been delayed until this upcoming November general election. I was fortunate to come across some data about voter registration for parents and caregivers of our students in the school district. And I found that over 13,000 of our parents are not registered to vote, of our parents and caregivers are not registered to vote. And that is over 45% of the parents and caregivers of our students. And that's a huge number that aren't participating in the civic opportunity to make a difference and impact our children's lives. And that was eye-popping to me, that many aren't registered. And so again, that's our goal of why we're recording this, so we can share with all of our PTAs and to show how easy it is. Again, we can't tell anyone how to vote or who to vote for. The purpose of this is just registering to vote. And that's where we're going to begin from there.
Awesome. I'm going to just go ahead and jump in and with the basics. And the most important thing I think to know is that you can't actually register to vote online, but you can use the internet to get a registration card mailed to you. And if you are already registered but have moved, let's say you live in Denton County, which is where most of our students and parents in Northwest ISD actually live within Denton County. We do have some Tarrant, we have a few in Wise, But let's say you're in Denton County and you've moved from one town to another, and you're like, but I've moved and I don't really know how to do it, and I'm certainly not going to be going anywhere, you know, right now with the environment the way it is. You can actually go online, and at the end of, I have some slides that I'll show you, and you can actually change your address online, and you're done. And then you're registered to vote in your new home. But if you have not ever registered to vote, it is a little bit different process. Libraries at our various schools in Northwest ISD have in the past had blank voter registration cards, but that isn't really going to be a great option for us right now because we don't really know when everyone will have, you know, access to those. So I'm going to have, I will show you what a mail-in voter registration card looks like that you can request from the Secretary of State. They will mail you one. I have a couple websites that will, let me jump into the slides here and show you a few things. Give me 1 second. Do you see a register to vote sign up there?
Yes.
Oh, good. Okay,
Yeah.
so if you are, yes, you can see it?
Yes. Yes. Looks good.
Okay. If you are 17 years and 10 months old and are going to be 18 by the election in November, you are eligible to register. And you have to be 18 on election day. If you're 1 day beyond, I'm sorry, you just missed the boat. You have to use black or blue pen on your voter registration card. And you don't need postage. You don't need to address it. I do suggest you put a piece of tape on it, you fold it up, and you put it in your mailbox, and the postal person will take it and mail it for you. And let me show you what it looks like. That is a Secretary of State voter registration card for anywhere in Texas. This is the back. You can see that you don't need a stamp, you don't need to address it. I'm going to give you a little bit more. Okay, these are the important things that you need to pay attention to. If you don't fill it out, they will either mail you back in 3 weeks or 4 weeks and say, you didn't put in blah, blah, blah. You didn't put in your date. You didn't put in your birth date. Whatever it is, you'll get it mailed back. So it's important that you fill out these things. Are you a new application? Fill out, you know, just make a check for that. Is this a change of address? That's great. Fill that out. If you have registered in the past, but you don't have your little orange and white or whatever color it happens to be, voter registration card that they mail to you, and you want a new one, you can go ahead and check that. Very important. Are you a U.S. citizen? You must be a U.S. citizen. You can't vote if you have a green card or if you are, you know, DACA, whatever. You have to be a U.S. citizen in order to vote. Will you be 18 years of age before Election Day? You have to check that. Are you interested in serving as an election worker? Oh, we are always looking for people, both parties looking for people to work at the elections. And so you can check, you're not obligated to do it. They just want to know if you're willing. Then you go to your last name, and please, if I get anything through to you, please write legibly. Print it where we can actually read it, because if they can't read it, it gets put into a computer in the wrong order, misspelled, and when you actually go to vote, they're going to be like, oh, but it's not spelled correctly, and it really can cause problems. So print cleanly, neatly, using ink. If go ahead to your residence address, it's a simple street address. If it's a house, if you're in an apartment, put your apartment number. That is so important, because they are going to mail you a voter registration card. If there's no apartment number, they can't get it to you. It'll go back and you are not registered. Put your city, put your county. It's either going to be Denton, Tarrant, or Wise. Put your zip code. If you get mail wherever you live, you just write, you can put the word same under mailing address. If you don't get mail there, you have a P.O. box, or you are a college student and you're like, I don't know, I'm not going to have a P.O. box. You can use your parents' address anywhere where they will accept mail for you. So that's line 4. Line 5 is city and county. If you've moved from somewhere, and let's say you're doing a change of address and you were in San Antonio and you've moved here, just put down San Antonio, the county, and that way they can take you off the rolls in that county and put you on here. Your date of birth, very important. You do not have to fill out number 7 or number 8. Number 7 is gender. You're not obligated to fill it out. Number 8, I do suggest people put down a phone number, primarily because if there is a question, and if let's say I'm doing a voter registration drive somewhere and people come up, because I'm a deputized voter registrar, and if they come up and they say, I want to fill one out, and they fill out the card and they walk away, and then I check it and then I can't quite read something, I can always call them or text them and ask them. So I suggest people put a phone number. It's not mandatory. Here's the most important part of the whole card, in my opinion. Number 9 asks you for either your Texas driver's license number or a Texas personal ID number, also issued by the DMV, or the last 4 digits of your social. Previously, I would always tell people, just use your last 4 digits of your social because it's easier than trying to, fill out the entire driver's license. I'm going to tell you that was bad information on my part. I've learned, because I've worked as an election judge this past March, it bogs you down when you go to vote. You actually have to fill out another form that just says, because they use your driver's license ID to scan to figure out you're you. They don't cross-check to social security numbers. So save yourself some time and aggravation. Just use your driver's license number or your Texas ID number. If you don't have either one, if you don't have your driver's license or a personal ID, or you can't find your social security number, just check that little box and they will do some research. That they actually do. It takes a while, but they will follow up with you and figure that out. Sign it, please, legibly, with the day that you actually filled the card out. So today's date, you fill that out, and that's it. And then you seal it. Just double check it real quick. You seal it and you put it in the mail, and that part is done. I'm going to jump ahead. If you can't do it, or I've had one lady at a college campus was like, my husband really needs to register, and I'm going to go ahead and do it for him. And I have to admit, I was like, this was a couple of years ago. And so I said, okay, I think that's okay. And I double checked with the elections office because I wanted to make sure. And sure enough, yes, you can do that as long as they're giving you permission. She had all the information, his birthday, whatever she signed, but she signed as herself for her husband, and you're good to go. You can also do that for your student if you're a parent and you have a high school student that is going to be at the appropriate age and you can't get them to sit down long enough to do it, and they're okay with you doing it, go ahead and fill it out and mail it in. And that part is done. If you have college students, and I know some people have kids in middle school and high school. I'm an old mom, so I had kids that are grown and out of the house and a high school student. But now he's in college. If you are in college and let's say you are, because obviously things are very fluid right now, some kids are going to go to dorms at different schools. Some are doing everything remotely. If you are in a dorm, you can use that address as your voting address. So, for example, even though I live here, locally, my son goes to UNT up in Denton. If he were living up there, he could use his dorm address as his voting address with his dorm name and room number. But because he is actually going to do the entire fall semester remotely, he will be here and he will use his home address. They have options. And let's talk a little bit about IDs. There's people that are like, I don't have, a Texas driver's license, or it expired, or I have a permit. I get that a lot for high school students that are like, I haven't gotten my actual license, but I have my permit. Go ahead and use that number. It usually starts with a 4. That will be your driver's license number as well. Even though it's just a permit, you can use that. That is totally acceptable. Older people, if their license has expired and they're like, I don't think I'm going to renew it, if they're fine. They can, use it for the next 5 years. Even expired licenses in Texas are fine. So I think you have 4 years up to do it. If you're a student that is going to school, let's say at UNT or TWU, and are living here and don't have any Texas ID, let's see if I'm on the next screen. There we go. They can actually fill out, it's called a reasonable impediment declaration. And I was really impressed in March because a young lady came in and said, I don't have, I'm from out of state, I don't have any. And she said, but I know I can fill out a reasonable impediment declaration. She had looked it up, and I was really proud of her for that. And she was working and had a copy of her paycheck. And so we filled out the form. She showed us one of those documents, and she was good to go. What we're trying to do is have everyone vote a regular ballot. And again, we're not talking about who to vote for, what party, what issues. We're just saying we want you to actually be able to vote and then go vote. And so we don't want you having to fill out a provisional ballot, because a lot of times they don't end up counting, and it's very frustrating for everyone. So if you use a reasonable impediment declaration, you avoid that provisional ballot. You can vote to the regular ballot. Let's see. This is a good screen, because if you're watching and you're like, I don't know how to get my hands on a voter registration card, there are a couple of really good ways. If you want to print it and then mail it in, you can go to this HTTPS, and then it's bit.ly/BGTX print. And you'll be able to print it right off there. You will have to put a stamp on it and mail it in. If you go to the next one, they will actually mail you a voter registration card. And so that's also listed there, BGTX SOS. So there are options. Unfortunately, in Texas right now, we do not have the option of just going online, registering, and being done. There used to be when you went to the DMV to get your license, they had a little box that said, do you want to register to vote? I personally have found that works about 50% of the time. We would get people saying, I know I did this, when I got my driver's license renewed, but they never got their voter registration card in the mail. So there is some fall off in effectiveness of this. So I'm always going to tell you, even if you think right now you are registered and you've been registered for 20 years and you're registered, I'm going to tell you to always double check prior to an election, prior to the cutoff date, to make sure that you're still where you think you are registered at your current address. It is so important that everyone just double check. It doesn't take but 5 minutes. Okay, League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan website and organization that has done phenomenal work. They always put out about 2 to 3 weeks before any election what guidance on what they do the research on all the different candidates, because we're not just talking about voting for one thing or one person. There's a huge list of things that are going to be on the November ballot. Everything from president, vice president, senators, House of Representatives. Local elections are so important because they impact each and every one of us. And it is so important that we pay attention to, school board members, mayors, and all kinds of local offices that impact each one of us. So I'm going to tell you to go to the League of Women Voters prior to any election. They have a screen where you put your address in. It will print out a sample ballot for you. And you can say, oh, I like this person. Oh, I like that person. You can check that off. You can bring a printed form like that into the voting booth. You cannot use your phone in a voting booth. It is against the law. So as an election judge, I would have, especially students would come in because they're living on their phones all the time. And they would pull up their phone thinking they were going to be able to use that as their guidance to know what, and you can't do that. So you can bring in something that's printed and it just says, I want to vote for this person, this. That's what I did. I did my research, and then it took me about, 5 minutes. Everything's 5 minutes, 5 minutes to vote because I had already done my research ahead of time. And then finally, that's a good address as well to request a mail-in voter registration card. You could just email them at elections@SOS, that's Secretary of State, abbreviation, .texas.gov. If you're over 65, you can vote by mail, which is wonderful. I wish we had the option for everyone to be able to vote by mail, but right now in Texas, they are not allowing that. And that's unfortunate because I know there's a lot of anxiety about getting out with COVID. I will tell you that I did vote in the runoff just, what was that, 2 weeks ago? And I happened to go into Trophy Club to Medlin Middle School. They had it set up. It was amazing. I probably felt safer there than I had definitely going into any other store or anywhere else. They had everything completely spaced apart. All the workers had protective gear on. Of course, I had a mask on. I had my own pen, but they did sanitize everything after each voter came in. So it was completely safe. And I was very impressed with all the efforts to be able to go in and vote and feel comfortable doing it. Having said that, I know in November, we will have a lot more people. And so if you get anything else out of this from me, I would say, please do go vote, but vote early. It's wonderful, and it's not in every state, but they allow us for 10 days prior to the election. And it's Monday, through Friday. It's usually like 8 to 5 the first week. And then it'll be on Saturday, 7 in the morning to 7 at night. And then on Sunday, 11 to 4. And then the next week, it actually jumps to 7 in the morning to 7 at night, all week long. So if you are apprehensive about going and voting because of COVID and you don't want to, and I am, I'll be the first to admit, I'm very apprehensive about it. I feel, not super comfortable about being around a lot of people, especially if they haven't chosen to put masks on. And so I'm going to say, please wear a mask. Please go in and vote early. You can just pick a time, either early in the morning, middle of the day, whenever. And there's like no lines. You literally walk in, you show them your ID. You don't have any direct contact with a person. They have a shield, a plastic shield in between you and them. And you just put your license in there on the little machine, and it scans it and says, just sign this screen, and you can use your own little, what is it called? Not a pen, but
Stylus.
Thank you. Stylus, couldn't think of the word. You can use your own, or I know some counties actually had like a little plastic, like a glove, but only for one finger, so that you could sign it with your finger and not have to put your finger directly on the screen. But they're sanitizing it after each person, so you're good. You go in, you do that, you vote, and you're out. And it's really super easy. But you got to do it early. You have to do it within that 10 days. If you wait for election day, you run the risk of, you're going to stand in line, and yes, they're going to space you, but don't do that. Don't put that pressure on yourself or the stress of it. Just vote early and be done, and know that you have had an opportunity to participate and make good selections for yourself and your family and our community, for our school district, because there's so many things coming up that directly affect our school district. And it's super important that we all participate. We all have a chance to have a voice and what happens. And if we just choose not to vote, then we're going along with whoever decides is good for us. And I for one, have never been a big, advocate of just hoping it all works out. I really think that it's important for all of us, because our kids, let's face it, our kids are like number one priority. for me, and I know most people, and I know everybody in PTA feels the same way, we want what's best for our kids, and that's a good education for them to be safe, for all of us to be healthy. So voting is a good way to say, this is how I think it needs to go. And that,
Right.
let's see, get off of that screen and back on to the Zoom meeting. Okay. I think
Rock and roll.
done with
Now, yeah, I was gonna say I have some websites we'll go over too real quick. I actually had a question from your slides. So for those
Okay.
folks who are eligible to vote for ballot by mail, how far out do they receive? Like, they can go ahead and apply for a ballot whenever. When they fill out the ballot, there's different boxes to check for
Right.
different elections and everything. But how far out will they receive their ballot? Do you know, from prior to election date, or does that depend by each county with their personnel and just getting it done?
Yes. I know that there was issues this past election of people requesting, I'm speaking primarily Denton County right now, because that's where I do the bulk of my voter registration activities. But I know that in Denton County, I know of several people that said, I requested one and I haven't received it. Keeping in mind that that was at the very beginning when COVID was first starting to kind of hit, and it definitely affected the post office because they were trying to, keep up with what was going on. So my suggestion is, if somebody requests a mail-in ballot and they haven't received it, 3 weeks prior to, they need to pick up the phone and just call the Denton County or the Tarrant County or the Wise County elections office. And they have people staffed there. That's all they do, is sit in front of a computer screen and just say, give me your name, give me your address. Then they'll verify that it's you. And they will either tell you, yes, it has been mailed, or no, it hasn't been mailed, or if you haven't received it by tomorrow, they can reissue. Or if it comes, super late, but you're not comfortable anymore doing a mail-in, you'd rather just go in person, you just bring that blank mail-in ballot with you to the elections. When you go to vote, you surrender that and then you vote. Does that make sense?
It does. If someone fills it out but fills it out incorrectly, does the actual county tell them? Will they contact them, let them know? Or is that on the voter when they call to check to say, hey, where's my ballot? And then they can pull up and say, oh, you marked this box wrong. Now you need to fill a new one out. That's what tends to happen, right? So it's on the voter.
More than likely, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But it always goes back to the voter needs to be cognizant and aware and take the initiative to follow up on it and follow it through. And it's usually just a phone call. And I know every one of those people in the elections office in Denton, they're super nice people, and they're there to help. They want everybody to be able to vote. So they're more than willing just to take the time, look it up real quickly, and let you know what the status is of it at this point. Because it isn't just over 65, it's people with disabilities. There are also, I should mention that if anyone, when it's election time, feels uncomfortable or it's difficult for them to, let's say, walk into wherever, even though they're all wheelchair accessible, but there are people that don't have wheelchairs that have a more difficult time and need help. They have signs that we post outside the different polling locations that says, call this number. You call and say, I need someone to come out, and we will actually come out to the car with the pin pad. They can vote. We check their ID. They can vote right there. They don't even have to get out of the car. So it's important for people. And if somebody wants to make it all the way into this space, but then they get in there, we don't make them wait in line. They get to go to the front of the line, and we have a chair inside where they can sit. So
excellent.
We're trying to make it as accessible for everybody that wants to vote, but there is one thing in common for all of it. You have to be registered.
Yep.
And it's 30 days prior to the election is the cutoff. So you can't wait till 2 days before election day and go, I really want to vote this year. I'm going to register. Well, you can register, but it won't be good for that election. It'll be 30 days after. It takes 30 days in Texas for it to take effect. So the cutoff, I believe, is like October 3rd, I think is the date. And so you will start seeing and hearing people at different locations with, protective screens on or whatever. We're still going to be out in the public trying to get people to realize that the cutoff date is approaching, and we want you to register.
All right, I'm going to share my screen now.
Okay.
We are going to go to, tell me if it worked. Did it work?
Screen roll.
Yeah, I can see it. Looks good.
Okay. So we're on the votetexas.gov website. This website, it's mobile friendly also at the top corner up here. Do I need to zoom in any, or can you see it okay?
I can see it great.
Okay, so the top corner is a mobile version. I assume that if you're on a mobile browser, it'll automatically default to that to help out to make it easier viewer. But this is easy on the eyes compared to the Secretary of State
Definitely.
general website, which we'll go to that also too.
Yeah.
But with this one, this website is still currently based off of this last election with the runoffs. I assume that sometime in August or definitely September, this will be updated with new information. I don't know if there's what special elections Governor Abbott approved of. I know he didn't approve of ours for Northwest because Dr. Warren had requested that our bond election be a special election for August, and that was denied. But at whatever point they will update this with probably the November general election date, and including down here the last date to register, when early voting begins, and when early voting ends. Again, this is really easy. There's a lot of great information on here too. We'll just go to some of the simple stuff. Am I registered? When you go to it, as Bonnie was saying, how to check. And you can use this to check your voter registration status, even your poll location, early voting locations, and some basic information like next registration date. And how you check it, is that your voter ID?
Yeah, it is, and that's probably the most complicated. Normally, when we're doing voter registration, we drop to the third one: name, county, date of birth.
Yeah, easy enough because most people, I believe, know what county they moved in, and it's not.
Or if they moved from another one, that they'll go, oh, maybe it's under Dallas County instead, and then we can look it up, and it'll give you the status.
Gotcha. And then TDL is Texas driver's license.
Yes.
Probably. Okay.
Yes.
All right, and so you'd fill that out. Let's go back. Okay, so that's how you check if you're registered. Now, registering to vote. Here it has the specific information: citizen, age, not a felon, resident of the county where you're submitting the application, and then of course, are you already registered too? All right.
Yes.
And then on this website too, there's great information too on the side as far as some additional things like filling out the application. Did you change something? Some of the again, great information on that too.
Good.
Voter ID. This is I'm going to click on this one. So hopefully that gets a little bigger for us. Again, Texas driver's license. I'll share. A few years ago, for one of the elections, I decided to use my military ID because I'm a military retiree, and so I used my military ID, and I just told the ladies at the thing, I was like, I just want to try this, since I'm legally allowed to, and they're like, yeah, no problem, I wasn't trying to be a pain in anyone's rear. I just wanted to, I had my right to do that, so I wanted to. We have plenty of handgun license owners here in Texas, and then for the people that don't have driver's license but have personal ID cards, and then here's some of the other ones too, even a passport also. And then, like you said, if you do not possess this, it shows what other ways they can acceptable forms of ID.
Yeah.
All right. Now, there's, like I said, there's other information on here. One of the ones I found was where to get an application. On here, it talks like we said, if you actually go into a registrar's office also, first of all, check and make sure you even registered. And then here it says an informal online application. And so this is where you'd fill it out. And then when you're done with it, then you would print it off if you have a printer at home, and then you mail it I'm trying to remember now, is it mailed to your county or do you mail it directly to the state?
You can do either.
Okay.
If you do it to your county directly, then because this is on the Secretary of State website, I'm going to say that they're probably expecting you to send it to them. But if you send it to, like, let's say you live in Denton County, so you send it to the Denton County Elections Office on Kimberly Drive. They're the ones that put it into the computer, and then it's done. It's a little bit more direct and faster to do it that way. But if you send it into the Austin address, it still all ends up in the same place. It'll still get into the computer. It's just slower.
Right, a little slower, exactly. And if we want to expedite,
they're doing 254, counties instead of just doing their own.
And to be honest, not every county has set up to be as quick and efficient for the state. So for some people, maybe live a little rural, maybe going directly to the state might actually be faster than where they're at. So again, it's just everyone has to make their own judgment on that call. Now back to that where to get an application. I came across this earlier. I thought this was great. You can request a postage paid application from your voter register by filling the form out. And so when you click there, then you fill it, and then they'll mail you an actual application with postage paid already. So you just fill it out and then mail it, I guess. I don't know if you have to tape it or seal it.
It's this card. That's what they're going to mail to you.
Okay. There we go. Rock and roll.
Yep.
So that's one way to do it for people then too. All right. Talking about now to the actual Secretary of State website we discussed. So a little more traditional, a little more busy. Maybe if some people like to use that language, but you have the votetexas.gov part, kind of what we were just talking about. So for our military overseas voters, I know we have plenty of service members still, service members that live in our district, primarily the Reserve National Guard, and they may be activated. Yeah. Well, the military's done a great job pushing that. Student voters, let's visit that. Again, as far as for our high school students who are eligible to vote, if I'm correct, every principal at the high school is a voting registrar also, because by state law, I think twice a year, high schools have to do like a voter drive or get the students registered to vote that are eligible, to at least give that opportunity to them. Right. And then if we have a student 16 years or older that's really motivated and wants to participate in the electoral process, they can actually be a student clerk in their county.
We actually had student clerks, and in March we had two that would come in which was wonderful, and they got paid, and so they actually were excused from one day of class, and it was great for them, and they were wonderful. Super fast on the computer. It was great.
Right.
It's a good learning experience.
Right. Well, especially for 16 and older, so that's the thing. They might not be eligible to vote, but they can actually see firsthand.
The process.
That's right. Absolutely.
Yes. I will say Northwest ISD has been wonderful about making sure that we've had blank voter registration cards in the library as well as the front offices. The librarians have been great about stepping up and helping. Again, this particular year, it's a little bit different picture for us, but it's been really voter friendly as far as the district, and so that's a compliment because it's not that way in a lot of places. I did voter registration drives for students all over Denton County, Wise County, and Tarrant County, mostly in Denton County. And some school districts are super, progressive and wanting students to be educated about why it's important to vote. And some are like, whatever. And I'm just thankful that our school district has been so good about it's important. It's not only a civil, obligation, it's a right. And most students that I registered were very excited. It's a sign of adulthood for them, and they are
Absolutely.
maturing, and they're seniors, and they're like, I want a say of what my world's going to look like, that I'm moving into. So it's pretty exciting for them. They always were like, this is my first time voting when they would come to vote. And it always made me feel great that they were there. They were excited. They were very educated. They had all their stuff filled out, ready to go. And so we need all the parents to jump in on that train as well, because this affects all of us. And it isn't,
right.
like I said, it isn't just the top of the ballot. It's all the way down. There's a lot of issues, bond issues and local issues that are super important. I did want to say one thing in case I forget to say it later. If you get a piece of paper from the elections office, do not ignore it or throw it out. And we had several people that had filled out a voter registration card, turned it in, figured they were good to go, never got their voter registration card. It's a postcard, and it has your name, your VUID, which is your voter identification number on it, and your address, and it'll say your Senate district, your House district, your precinct that you live in, all interesting and informative stuff that you need so you know where to actually go vote. But they ignored a letter from their election office, and it could be something as simple as you didn't put an apartment number, you didn't put your room number, you didn't whatever, but they ignored it, and so their voter registration was in suspense. So if you go to look up your voter registration on one of these websites like votetexas.gov, and it comes up and you fill out your name and your date of birth and your county, and it has a little block of, and it's usually like orange or red in front of your information in suspense, and that always freaks people out. It means that there's just some kind of information that you didn't fill in, or that you're lacking, or that they want to double check. And all you have to do is either call the number that they list on that piece of paper, or go online, correct it, and then everything is good to go again. But don't ignore it. I had several students that were like, oh, I got that, but I didn't do anything with it. And so don't ignore it. If you really want to vote, you can't ignore it.
Right.
Sorry.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And with this website too, some again, some of this is repetitive, but in a little bit different format too. But like here again, acceptable forms of identification.
That's
I
big.
know that these are those posters, and then in Spanish also too. Just understanding what you need to be able to vote when you show up. This one's a little convoluted here, but the election law calendar, because again, the next big election's coming up for us, for the Northwest ISD, our bond election got pushed back to the general election in November, and same with our 3 board of trustee elections. We have 2 of those are contested elections, and one of them is running unopposed, but he's that place is still going to be on the ballot though.
Good.
And early voting, the election day is going to be Tuesday, November 3rd, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. The first day of early voting is Monday, October 19th, which is the 15th day before the election day. And that, again, as you said, those early voting windows, some of that stuff. And we'll get a little bit, now, I was going to transition to our 3 different counties. But first, before I did that, I want to go to the links you had in your PowerPoint, those short links you had. This is one of them. To print your registration, or print your registration application. So if someone goes on that link, that's what they'll find. This is the long version of that. And then the other link on that same PowerPoint was request a voter registration application. And so again, really easy stuff
for people
to fill
that
out.
don't have printers. That's really what that is, because there's a lot of people don't have a printer at home.
Correct.
So this is a good way to get one where you don't have a printer and you can't just print the thing off.
That's right, and then it gets sent to you. That's right, and then you fill it out, and then gotcha. Now, this is important. I wanted to show this. This is off of our Northwest ISD website. I'll go to it's easy for any parent, any community member to find it though. You go to the Northwest or NISDTX.org website. You go to attendance boundaries. I think most people know where they're at, but it gives a good idea to see how big our school district is also. 234 square foot, 234 square miles.
It's crazy big.
These dotted lines are so this would be Wise County here on the left side. On the right side here
Right.
is Denton County, and then this whole bottom area here is Tarrant County. I don't know how zoomed in people can see, but you actually see where it says Tarrant right there.
Yep.
And just from looking at this, you can tell, and the bright colors are where some of our elementary schools are at. And so some of our elementary schools, like clicking on this is Sendera Ranch Elementary School. That alone is in all 3 counties, Denton County, Wise
Wow.
County. And so that just shows our PTA membership, you know, aren't just located in a single electorate area. They could be over large areas. This is for Justin Elementary School, where I currently live. There or in this attendance zone, but again, 2 counties there also too. Almost all of so many of our schools are located, you know, one of our newer schools here, Lance Thompson, it's purely going to be in Denton County. But again, this really kind of shows how some of these cross over in the various counties. So each of our PTAs, when we're talking about this, is why it's so important to understand that each one of us, when we take our responsibility to vote, it also matters to understand where that it's not, our experience isn't necessarily the same as our person sitting next to us in our PTA meeting, you know, or on our board. Each one of us might be a little bit different. And that's why I wanted to create this in the first place, to kind of show how large of an area that impacts our students. So now going to we'll start with Wise County. Again, like I said, our Wise County, we've got a few schools here and everything too, but going to the Wise County election, you just go to their government website, co.wise.tx.us. You could just Google or whatever search browser you use, for the Wise County, and then it's right on the front for Wise County elections. You click it, and there's a short and sweet and simple. A great. We'll just click on because these were for the early voting for the runoffs that just happened actually. So it'll pull up as a PDF, and so this is it shows early voting days and hours and where you can do your early voting at, different hours, different days. And again, this is important for each person to understand that, you know, you can't, if you wait until the last day of actual election day to look at this stuff, you might find yourself really flustered and frustrated, and that's why you want to try to take a good look at this a couple weeks prior to election day to have
Joe,
a better understanding.
another important, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure,
Yep.
if you vote early, you can vote in any early voting location within your county. So if I happen to be, you know, up in Denton for early voting, I could vote up there. If I am home, you know, I can vote the closest one over here. But anywhere in Denton County, if you are, that's for all 3 counties, you can vote at any of the early voting locations. On election day, you have to go to your precinct polling location, and that is listed on your voter registration card. That's another reason. Don't wait for election day, because you are limited if you're working, if you're out at school, if you're not going to be close to the polling location on election day, you may be out of luck. If you want to vote early, you just go to any location within the county. Super easy, so convenient. I can't emphasize that enough, and I wish more people would take advantage of it, because it just relieves the stress completely.
That's right. So like for this is the election day, location of election day polling places, 7 a.m., 7 p.m. And so in Wise County, if you're at any of these precincts, and it will say it on your voter card,
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. It'll say on your card what your precinct is, and then you'd know where to then vote. And again, an example of what a ballot would look like, we'll just look at the Republican sample ballot. Again, and this is specific to Wise County, a general one for Wise County. Some people, again, depending on where they live, their sample ballots are going to look different. But just, again, if you've never seen a ballot before, if you've never voted before, this is what you're going to see, and how to fill it out. All right. So let's go back. Let's close that. So again, that's Wise County. And then you'll usually find things, results, all that wonderful stuff. For your questions, there's your physical address. You can email, phone number. If you, like you said, if you fill out that your application and you want to mail it, this is where you'd mail it to for the Wise County if you live there. Now for Denton County, they've got their little high-speed votedenton.com. I like that because it's a dedicated website to it,
Yeah.
sub-website through them. Now, I live in Denton County, so I am most familiar with this website also. So some of the things on here, you kind of just scroll, but it has information regarding the upcoming elections. A lot of it's just, again, coming soon, but they'll have all that specific information. Let me see if I can, okay. All right, so the dates, times for early voting locations. They'll even have maps also. Again, different counties have the resources to be able to put forward to have this stuff also.
Right.
Sample ballot lookup, and again, the same thing. My ballot would be different than your ballot because
That's correct.
we're in a different precinct, and so certain
Right.
Elected officials' jurisdictions may cross over also for different ones or be separated. Down here, your current voter lookup, so you can look up information to actually view your sample ballot. So then you'd fill out, and then it'll pop up what to expect. So going back to what you said, because I use the League of Women Voters, the LWV also. So I was able to print this out. Okay, these are who I'm expected to have, and then go to the LWV website, fill in, my information also too, and be like, yeah, this is accurate. These are who the people I'm actually voting for, and then have it prepared and ready for me, and then staple it, and I walked in there and I'm ready to go. I know exactly who I'm going for, and
Right.
I'm not
So easy. It's
yeah,
when you do a little bit of your homework. Yep.
just a little bit. It's part of our, again, I believe part of our responsibility and duty as citizens where we live. Request a mail ballot, that's on here for voters with disabilities. Contact information. Again, down here too, they have a Twitter account, a Facebook account also, their address. Not too difficult, pretty easy. I dig theirs. I dig their stuff. It's pretty great. That's just me though. I like it because it's dedicated to it. Now we're gonna go to Tarrant County. I'm trying not to bag on Tarrant County. Let's go back to the general. Yeah, I know. So Phyllis lives in Tarrant County, and so busy. Talk about busy. Oh my gosh, there's a whole lot going on here, but that's okay though. Now I do like some of the stuff on Tarrant because, again, like this right here, where do I vote? Just right off the bat, where do I vote? And then from here, they've got this high-speed setup because of how big Tarrant County is. And again, if we want to cross-reference back to our Tarrant County schools, right, all right here, and then we go back to this map, this area right here. And so there's going to be different precincts and stuff, but the same thing, you fill it out by your name, because they already know what county you're in. So just your last and first name, your date of birth, and then it'll pull up your information from there. We don't have that. We're going to be polite and not have Phyllis fill it out with her date of birth. We're going to skip that to pull it up, but we're rock and roll though. Now down here, I do like how they have the election menu. It's a little further down, so you just have to go down a little bit. But again, some people want to have questions about their voting systems. Is it ballot, is electronic, some of that. Every county is going to have their own, and they're going to and that information is easily available. That's right. They've got their frequently asked questions, early voting information we talked about. So understanding some of that stuff. Again, it's a little busy, so it may take some reading. They've got some stuff already figured out though for November the 3rd election, joint elections, but early voting schedule. Let's pull it up. Oh, hey, look, to be posted again soon. That's hilarious. They sent a PDF to tell you that. All right. I apologize for that. So I guess we're not going through this ahead of schedule. So upcoming information. Again, they have maps also too. Sample ballot also too. Voter information, voter requirements, a lot of stuff we talked about, voter registration. The opportunity is there. People got to just take a few minutes and fill it out, and they get what and then you'll be able to get what you need. Sample ballot, upcoming election stuff, election day information also, Again, for people that want to be more civically engaged in their counties, they want to be a poll worker, help out, absolutely. And then some of this other stuff for actual campaigns and all that. We're going to skip on that. But even here, there's great information. Am I registered? You know, again, all that information is available on there. So
I will
those are
say,
our
too,
yeah.
Joe, I will say that usually, especially for adults that have voted in many elections for many years, still living in the same location, I will tell them that for this particular election in November, they need to double check to see where they will actually be voting. If they choose to wait for election day, please don't. But if you do, double check where it's going to be, because some of the previous voting locations, poll locations, will not be in the same place because there are new guidelines as far as social distancing and accessibility and room size. So, you know, if they were in a smaller room in a church before, you know, we always voted there, it won't be that way this time. They are looking actively, both parties, because they both decide on different, you know, polling locations by county. They're looking for large rooms, you know, like gymnasiums at schools that have to be open, you know, 7 days a week, and have more room for people to socially distance while they're waiting to vote. So make sure you double check, even if you've always voted in the same place for the last 20 years, there is a chance it may not be there this time. So double check that prior to going to vote. See, parents have and adults have homework, even as we, you know, age and go through life. It doesn't end in school. You still have to do your homework.
That is right. And I'm glad you said that, because now
so they'll stop complaining.
And I'm glad you said that, because that just reminded me then too about, you know, social distancing and all these other things. So this, because everything got pushed as far as for election day to the general one in November, this last year, whenever you know, all stakeholders in NISD had the opportunity to vote on the upcoming school calendars, you know, the district took it into account about wanting to promote voting. And so, as we can see, the election is on the 3rd, and you know, early voting will, you know, starts here on the 19th actually. So people work, teachers work, parents work, all that, but that's early voting start. Excuse me. But then come election day, the 3rd, that light blue. All right, that's a professional learning day, but it's a student holiday. So that means students.
That's fantastic.
That's right. If they want, they can vote if they want to, right? And professional learning day, depending, we'll see how everything works for our teachers though, and for our employees. Depending on, of course, where they live matters also too, because not every teacher and not every employee lives in the Northwest ISD.
Correct.
But still gives them opportunity to vote, and this begin 7 to 7 that day. If for some reason they weren't able to participate in early voting, including on that Saturday and Sunday, that usually early voting allows. Now on that second too, that you can't. There's no voting on that second, correct?
Correct.
The day, that Monday before, it's kind of like the big.
Correct.
Everyone takes a big breath, you know, if depending on what's happening. But it's a full-on holiday for everyone though. So for staff and students at least. So that means though that it definitely gives a chance for people that have not done early voting to actually take it. You know, they're off of school, so our students, our teachers. To review the information, what they're eligible, you know, who's going to be on the ballot, and kind of be prepared. So when that chance happens that they get a chance to go and vote, they'll be able to go in and knock it out. You know, I know for our runoff elections this last with a couple weeks ago here in July for the runoffs, they had it at Pike. At Pike Middle School for where I live at least. And again, social distancing, things spread out and whatnot. So you go in there also. So there could be the likelihood of some of our schools may be used for that.
I would think they probably will be. Yeah.
And that's part of why we wanted to have the day off. Also, I said we as the district, we all had a chance to, or those of us that chose to vote wanted that too, though. But part of that was because we know some schools are used on election day and wanting to give that opportunity. Now
That's
we've got the
great.
social distance thing, but actually also have a whole separate day than having a bunch of strangers come in, on campus while we have a regular school day also, and different
Right.
chaos and stuff too, though. So um, with that though, I was able to find, and I found this through, let me go to my change my screen. Well, first of all, I guess I should say, Bonnie, any of those websites I showed previously, is there anything you would like me to go back to at all, or did we hit?
No, you did a great job. I think they're all, just know that like Wise County, the election office, I think there's 2 people in there. I mean, it's obviously smaller county, less populated, smaller election office. Tarrant is a large election office in Fort Worth. And Denton is also big, but very accessible. So don't hesitate. If you have questions, they would love to answer them for you. They want people to register and they want people to be able to vote. So.
Right. This slide I'm currently showing is from the last demographers report to our Board of Trustees in Northwest ISD Board of Trustees in, I believe, June, I think is when this was. And so this is the first quarter. So some of the COVID stuff hit during the first quarter of 2020. But what it shows, why I want to show this is for our PTAs to understand, our schools are all located on here, but it shows where the growth is of new lots, that we know we're going to have new members, people moving in, and we're going to have, again, want to make sure these people are registered to vote. As our PTAs grow with our new membership and stuff, but understanding that we have a lot of growth going on in our school district. The green is active, what's currently happening. Some of these are huge areas, and then the yellow is the future. And then down at the bottom right box, I think is pretty important to see, over
Wow.
3,000 that are available to build on, 42,000 though planned, of just new homes. And then the groundwork underway currently under 4,100, so that's just the ground moving right now on those homes ready to build up. And
Those are big numbers. That's a lot of growth. That's a huge high growth.
Yeah. And what the demographer shared too, though, is just like whenever the last huge housing market crash happened a few years ago and stuff too, our school district still grew. Anyone that knows a real estate agent, talk to them, they're still selling homes. We still have new families moving to this neighborhood. So our growth may be will slow down. We may not hit all these massive high numbers and stuff, but we're still, this district will still probably have 1,000 new students possibly, give or take. We'll see how everything pans out with this whole COVID mess and stuff, but people are still moving in the district, and that's what it comes down to, though. So once we get past everything with COVID, the reality is this is the area that people still want to live in, with great schools, some great programs and stuff also. That's really it. I think at the end of our presentation, we hope everyone learned a bit, understand how to vote, registering to vote. Let me stop my share. There we go. Would either one of you two like to add anything at all?
I hope we can do more of these.
I will add that, the Texas PTA and our PTA is very interested in making sure that our voices are heard. As a membership organization and as an advocacy organization, as Joe mentioned, there are priorities that pertain to the health and safety of children, to learning, to, positive experiences for our children. And so being a part of PTA is an important part of educating yourself and being informed about the issues. And we look forward to sharing, more about those priorities and how you can get engaged. Certainly registering, voting, taking the time to get educated is a big part of that, and let PTA be a helper in that process and helping you understand what some of those priorities are, and so that you can make the right, decide who you want to vote for and how that is going to play out for you in your ballot.
Well, thank you for saying that, Bill. That reminded me to go back to, actually, I had it on my other, so I put it back on the screen share, actually, the Texas PTA stuff set up for our, we understand that not every campus is going to have advocacy chair, but my job as advocacy chair for the council is to try to help each one of our PTAs though. So I'm more than willing to share and give information right here on the Texas PTA website. Advocacy is one of the main things on there. But when you actually go down to our resource guides, and by our different ones, if you actually go to advocacy, it talks about some of our things, legislative positions. Some of the stuff is going to change with upcoming legislative session we have here in Texas and everything. There's a YouTube video people can watch on it, but by actually going to the resource guide, and I'm just going to go to my next tab, scroll over to where it is, but here on one of the pages, page 12, right there, promote participation in civic activities by registering voters and encouraging turnout. And again, that's what, as PTA, that's one of the things we can do. What we can't do, we're not involved in people's political campaigns. That's not our thing. We don't oppose, support, or endorse any individual running for office or school board. Now, we can talk about things like the school bond and other things coming up and big legislation that's going to help students also. Those are things that we'll revisit later on for us as a council, with each of our PTAs. But in general, though, why we're having this Zoom and why it matters, we want to promote, participation at the end of the day. Like I said, we had that, it blew my mind. Again, like I said, the amount of parents we had, and that was from last year, and we know people are moving here over the summer and stuff also. And it's I didn't vote whenever I was in the Army. I admit that I didn't vote. I just knew I was a cog in the wheel. That was kind of my attitude, head down and stuff. But once I was hospitalized, I kind of started understanding what part of the cog in the wheel I really was of, and really started to value my voice and understood, the policies that put me there and were going to help me afterwards move forward to have the good life I have now and stuff. And I realized that being civically engaged is a part of that, and voting matters. And we just have to, we're fortunate to have that. I've been in countries throughout the world where votes don't count, voting doesn't matter, and we have that wonderful opportunity here. And I just hope we can continue to grow that and people find this video helpful. How it is easy. It takes a few minutes to fill out your voter.
5 minutes.
Yeah, voter registration card and send it off, and have some pride, on being able to do that. So I just want to thank.
If people want to get to know you better and want to connect with you, what are some ways they can do that?
They can find me. Let me. My email address for advocacy is not, of course, easy. I have to make it longer than I should.
Well, and you have a Facebook. You have a Northwest ISD Council of PTAs Advocacy Facebook page. Joe posts a lot of updates there, and he'll post reminders there. So be sure you follow and subscribe to that, so you can get his updates, and hopefully that'll ping you and remind you to get these tasks done.
I will say too, if anyone that's watching that just said, "Oh, I didn't write down all the websites," or "I don't really want to have time," I have 1,000 Secretary of State mail-in voter registration cards, blanks, that because I'm a deputized voter registrar for all 3 of those counties and 2 more. But they can just email me at bonnie.moore@mac.com, and I will mail them one. Happy to do it, or deliver it in person and put it in their mailbox. But I mean, all through my town, I live in Trophy Club, and I have people that are just like, I can't find them. I don't know where to get them. I don't want to go online. No worries. I'll get one to you. I just want you to fill it out and turn it in. So I'll put that out there too.
Love it.
Absolutely. All right. Here, let's do this. I'm going to share screen and actually do this right. Ta-da. There we go. Joe Osham, Northwest ISD Council PTAs. I'm the advocacy chair, if I can speak correctly. Thank you. There we go. But that's the email. Like I said, it's a little long. NISDPTAADVOCACY @gmail.com. Anyone can reach me, and I can, provide the best information I can, so we can help our students in the school district. So appreciate y'all's time today. and we're going to end it. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
Joe.
everyone.
Thanks, Phyllis. Bye.